Hi.
Good morning, David. How are you?
Morning.
My background is this. I went to Ball State University, had a photography class there, and then partied my butt right out the back door. So all I learned in that class was simply the mechanics of shooting 35 millimeter film, okay, using camera, f-stops, all those things. And then I went to work for another company who ended up who owned another company, and one of their principal guys had been a former NYU photography instructor. So he took, story short, he took me under his wing and mentored me for about 3 years. So one-on-one, really got a phenomenal education. He was a major photographer during the mid '60s, and so I'm old. Anyway, and then so I shot professionally for about 4 or 5 years after that, off and on, but not quite enough to make a big living at it. And then the wife got pregnant. Yeah, just about the same time, somebody stole all my gear. So I gave it up for a very long time. So about 8 years ago, I was doing another job, insurance adjusting. They sent me all over the country. I'm out there with a point and shoot camera, and I'm getting some shots that I never thought I could ever get. But all that came back to me, and I enjoyed it. Since then, I've been really working hard at it. So I converted over to making this about a 90% of all my income. So that's where I'm at. I recently I've had a gallery opening. I was recently invited to the Sarasota Masters Art event in Florida. And I principally do architectural photography, but the Sarasota event was with all my fine art. So that's basically it. I'm old. Like I said, I've had a lot of time to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
So the inquiry was about abstract photography. I took a quick little look at your images that Sean presented to me, and I like what you've done here. Number one, I think you've got a very good eye. On the first photograph, number one issue, the only issue, and this would be the only negative thing I say the whole time, is, and it's not really a negative, it is change your position, your point of view on your shot. I like this. There's a lot of good pattern, texture, all of that. I think you could do better if you get yourself down pretty much in the middle. So basically, no standing straight up with a camera at your eye level. So any other position than that will improve your shot dramatically. This is a good shot, but if you just move down a little bit and then come in on it a little bit, you would have a great shot. Cool?
Yeah.
Okay. And even to the point of cropping in on, substantially smaller areas. You have multiple opportunities here to come up with some different shots. So if you just bring your point of view down to where you're dead level with it, when you have a repeating pattern like this, either straight on or extreme angles. So you're kind of just floating up a little bit on an angle. Okay. Overall, I like it, but I think it would be substantially better if you brought your point of view down, basically in line with a 0 in photography or an O in photography, and then start from there. You can even crop in at that point for any segments that could create additional images. So overall, I like it.
Oh, my first photo in that document is for my background. That wasn't for my abstract photography.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. In a second, my house as a studio. Really like that. I think you could pick a point of interest, maybe even a little bit of editing as far as sharpening this edge down through the middle to give it a point of interest. But overall, I like it. Are these chains? What's the actual?
They're pendant lights in my ceiling.
Ah, got it. I like that a lot. Very good. Very good. This is probably my favorite of all of them. It's simple. You have dark to light. You have contrast. Really like that. You've got a good eye.
Thank you.
You have a good eye. I particularly like the circles. I'm going on to the next one, slide 5. I particularly like the shape of the circles in all of this. Now, you've not done any kind of Photoshop or Lightroom editing on these at all. Is that correct?
None.
Okay, that's what I thought. Well, with just a little bit of contrast adjustment, maybe some mid-tone adjustment, you'd be able to bring out some of that shape a little bit more. But overall, I like it.
Yeah.
I really like this one, the Making My Boring Day Interesting. That's subtle, yet it's got enough contrast, the highlights. I like it. Well, what I was suggesting is, the original inquiry said to review some abstract information for you, kind of help you with that, your photographs and some general information about it. And then, in addition to that, give you some ideas of where you can move forward. Well, I'm going to try to switch over to some of my images. And this has then nothing to do with yours. I'm just going to give you some tips and things that I see that may be able to help you. Even though a lot of these are more realistic images, they're almost all still abstract, because anything that's not a snapshot of reality, anything you modify from that truly is an abstraction. So any changes that you make. So, but I think you can still work with this. So anyway, this is an abstract photograph. Competitive repetition of texture, lines, simplified color. So you have the green and the purplish gray that's in here. It creates a pattern, it creates a texture that overall is appealing. At least most people seem to think it is. That's a bit of an abstraction as well. So it's not quite what you were doing with some of the others, but at the same time, I could take my camera and set it on about 1/10 of a second and move across this, and I would get something similar to what you had for your hanging lights, chains, or whatever that was. This is not HDR, okay? But if you stay with your basics of rule of thirds, you've learned all those things, rule of thirds, some contrast, the color, etc. If you stay with that, you'll still be able to get dynamic images. Anything beyond a snapshot, you're looking for something that's going to get a response from somebody. My personal response that I'm looking for is an emotional response. I want them to say, wow, or I love that, or I remember something because of it, okay? So I have a point of interest here of Krabby Joe's deck, the title, okay? And when I was down in Florida, a lot of people said, oh, I know exactly where that place is. We ate dinner there, and so on. That was the kind of reaction I was looking for, as well as the fact that I sold a 2-foot by 3-foot panel of it. But in this one, what I've done is I've modified the colors a little bit by I started with a dark image and came in, did nothing more than highlight. So a dodge and burning is the way we used to call it, doing nothing more than highlighting the areas that I wanted to bring out, okay? So if I hadn't done that, everything else would have been like over here underneath this, well, down toward the bottom here. This is more color abstract. Somewhat similar technique, though, starting with dark and just simply lightening it. So it's a little bit of a different technique. Where everybody wants to build it and all this kind of stuff, I start with light, bring it out. Interesting little story on that one, but that's not HDR either. It's just additional saturation. Again, okay. Your rule of thirds, blah, blah, blah. I originally started without the girl in it because I wanted the people down in here in the reflection and so on. Let me get that. I've got more that are actually more in tune. The St. Augustine Bridge. Here's a little bit more of an abstract. So you have the silhouettes of people in front of the St. Augustine fort.
Okay.
Okay. So this one is what I was talking about a minute ago as far as that first image. Now you clarified for me on that one, I understand. But this is similar to what I was talking about. Be basically perpendicular, commit to a point of view, either directly on like this, or get an extreme angle, like lower right-hand corner, upper right-hand corner, down low, somewhere, some other angle other than standing straight up with your camera in front of your face. Okay. Those are lines. A little bit of an abstract here, line texture, all that. I really like this. Anyway, that's good. I've got a couple more. Here we go. This is a staircase at Ponce Inlet in south of Daytona, Florida. Most people shoot stairways facing down. This is facing up. So you're seeing the bottom of it, but it cuts across here the way they built it. They built it in sections. In any case, kind of creates an interesting look, a different texture. You've heard of Fibonacci's spiral, correct or not?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Basically, that's tying right into this. This is just straight on with Fibonacci ratio or spiral. Now, one of the reasons I'm talking about these is that your first images that I saw, okay, and I recognize that they were some of your first images. You're not 64 years old like I am. So each one of these has a reason. There's a reason I shot them. It wasn't just because it's an interesting look, okay? Every one of them, there's something that somebody can tie into, understand, reflect, have something from their history. This is an old style lamp, so a lot of people would look at it and say, I remember when they made those. This is in Chicago, and you see the different patterns. Even the glass is different, even though it's glass. You see the shapes going through the wrinkled, cheapy glass that they used on this. That's why you see all the deformation. But there's kind of an interesting thing here. This is from the Dolly Museum, and the obvious is the stairway and the handrails, but look at the shadow. That's really my point of interest and focus on this thing, was the shadows. So these are abstractions. A little different than what you're doing there, but again, say again, dead on. And once that takes a second to sharpen up, you can actually go into the original image. You can actually get down and see in all these little rust pits and so on and so forth. Now, this is one of my favorites. This was actually shot with a point and shoot camera, but let me tell you what I've got here. Look at every one of these windows. They're almost all different. Every one of them almost has their own little story. Okay? So that's also an abstraction. It's not reality per se. It's something there. You can see something in it can create an emotion. But I think that's very important. Have a reason for making the shot. Now, does that mean I go out there and not take pictures that are just generic? I do. Of course I do. But when I see something that comes close, then I really focus in on why I'm shooting it. And that's when I really try to get a subject that's interesting to me. Kind of like all the abstract, the lines of the building. Anyway, you don't need to see all of them. One of the things that'd be interesting to look at is everybody teaches us to use a very short depth of field. And even though this is not an abstract, this may be a very good one to show you. Basically, it's in focus from about her eye to his tail. And beyond that, it goes to bokeh. Okay? but they're not terribly hard. If I had tried to tie in perfectly sharp right here on this eye, then everything else would be out of focus. You see that all the time. They're forcing that sharpness. Do this, I would say, similar things for your abstracts when you're doing the graphic type abstract that you showed me in these other images. Then I would really try to not shoot at your lowest f-stop, trying to create a shallow depth of field. I would create something a little deeper so that you get your full subject sharp. Then everything else goes bokeh. Okay, that would be a tip for you. All right, so this is Calumet Farms thoroughbred. Bless you. Thoroughbred horses in Calumet Farms in Lexington, Kentucky. Compositionally, I'll show you this real quick. This is actually a little abstract as well, believe it or not. Here, obviously, the subject, okay? But I've got it physically, I'm blocking it off here. It's bound then, or an edge right here, where you could actually cut off everything else from above that fence line right across there. It goes away, and you still have a pretty decent little shot. There's the focus. But the subject in this case actually is the foreground object. The background is creating the support for the image. So story-wise, it gives you setting. It gives you a place. Okay, where is this? What are they doing? How does this fit within the environment? But now if you look then underneath that fence line to this ditch line creates an arrow. It's a triangle pointing toward them. Well, I intentionally framed it that way because I was originally about 4 feet to the left, and I had more gap here in the front of the horse. And then I was off as far as that goes. It was floating above, or I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't quite right. So if you look at your lines, your leading lines, which is another factor, right? We'll look at that fence, these fence lines. And instead of using a fine line like the cursor, you could actually use like almost a thumb and follow that line across. So it's more of an indication type of a line. So you see how it kind of throws it right down this general direction. And then the tree points down into it. The line comes off here, points over to them. The line here goes in right where the ear is. I've got the head of the mare right down in here organized. So even though you got this triangle pointing that direction, this triangle is framing within that portion of the image. So I start taking each individual section and layering it. So each one of them could actually be cut out, put back in place, whatever. But it's a little bit of an abstraction because I was forcing that. If you just walk up and take the snapshot, boom, it's something different. So even though this is showing a realistic photograph, it really has some abstraction to it. But you can do exactly the same thing when you're doing just graphic type of an abstract. Okay, you can have shadows aiming toward something else. Okay, toward your subject. So instead of this triangle down here like this being real, this could be shadows from dark to light or light to dark, pointing toward a shiny object that you've got a clear focus on, and maybe you have, multiple red and black lines behind it, anything that nature. But you can use similar type of geometric shapes to point. Make sense?
Yeah.
This is the worst, but yet one of the better pictures I've taken. It's the worst picture because it's dead center. Never take a center picture. You can take a picture with a subject in the middle with things that are balanced around it. Okay, so it's center balanced, but not just dead center. This is a framing you typically see with an amateur. However, the dynamic stroke of the horse's hoof and so on, it just kind of lend it. I left it like that. I kind of liked it, even though technically it's not right. Anyway, let me get into, that's an HDR. That's a little bit of a graphics, kind of an abstract, because you can break into each one of those, each one of these sections, image sections. So you end up having shadows and lines. If you notice, the top of each of these hills is highlighted, okay, and highlighted. So you end up having this movement across. I do actually have, this is a bit of an abstract, the sun behind it.
That's a beautiful shot.
Thank you. Thank you. Rule of thirds, more or less third down. Image is about a third of the way in. The mass of the light is comparable to well, not quite comparable, but it really surrounds it. And then the lines give you that texture and all repeating patterns and so on. I've got a whole series of shots that are similar to this in that the barns or the buildings are right on the horizon line intentionally. Okay? Where they tell you not to do that. Well, I like exaggerating it, and that's one of the things, but thank you. Similar shot. This is actually the old picture. I've gone back in and I've healed these or taken those lines out of it.
Okay.
Cleared up some of this stuff. Did some Gaussian blur on some of this, creating more across through here, especially creating more of more of an abstract look to it, more of a cartoon look. This one's been licensed numerous times. I don't know why. I guess it's the colors or something. A bit of an abstract, and it's all the texture and so on. There's actually a subject down here in the middle. The little green flower.
Yeah.
It's kind of cute. So one of the things that I do when I'm shooting something that has textured line, all these kind of things, I'm thinking as a background for a book cover, album cover, a brochure, something. I don't know where this would end up being, but I kind of liked it, and so I shot it. I have no clue what that little flower is, but I love the colors. That was with a point and shoot, as a matter of fact. All right. This one, again, was just a bunch of trees and a hill, but it was very tightly woven limbs and so on. And if I was going to use this, I'd probably end up cropping the bottom off of here and just use the texture through the middle. But again, I don't know what it might be some kind of a background. That shouldn't even be on there. Here we go. Here's a little bit more abstract stuff. You like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. This one, I've got a whole series where I'm shooting through windows. Okay. From one through the door, through the window, through the window, through the window. Through the window over here, through that one. So I shoot all the way through like this. So it creates depth. A lot of color, a lot of contrast, a lot of continuous lines, on and on and on. So it really creates a deep photograph. Now, even though this is more realistic than what you were presenting to me earlier, again, same kind of thing can apply for your graphic type of images, like that's the one with the light glowing, or the chains, or whatever it was, the light fixture, whatever that was. You could actually have multiples of those intertwined around and around and creating depth or any pattern like that. But you see what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. This one again, straight on. See, simple rule of thirds scenario, but look at the color, the texture, all that. This is my wife's favorite shot. I'm a big proponent of doing depth.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can't do this. Okay, straight on. Anyway, here's some interesting. This one's kind of interesting. I shot this through a dirty, filthy window. There's an old carriage house at a Howard Steamboat Museum in Jeffersonville, Indiana. But I loved the way that everything was pushed against the wall. Again, it's sort of, what is the story? Why is everything pushed like that? Look at the old texture, the old lines, and on and on. I added a little bit of glow through the window here. Okay. And other than that, that's pretty much it. Then you've got the basic geometric shapes that you can look at as well. This is a museum up in Chicago. I just love the old slate look here with the marble and the cut stones and so on, and texture and look and the lines and everything else. Anyway, that's down the road from me. If you can see that or not. Snow.
Yeah.
It's actually a little abstract as well. Walkway to nowhere.
That's very cool.
You like that? That's there was an old railroad bridge over the Ohio River between Louisville, Kentucky and Indiana side. And the railroad had taken down all the lines before that for many years, been gone for 30 years or something. Then both Kentucky created a walking ramp up to it. Excuse me. And this is the Indiana side. They created a straight line walking ramp and then finished it off. And the sides of this thing has lights that are going like Christmas tree lights, blinking on, changing colors, progressive, red to yellow to green, all that. It's really cool.
Nice.
But I kind of like the way it just goes off to nowhere. Repeating patterns. This one's abstract in its intent. Why would you put a concrete building next to a window? This one's a little bit abstract in subject matter. I originally forget about the bicycle for a second, okay, and just look at everything else. So you have this church in the background. You've got the statue. It's obviously live plants and things being well kept, but yet there was a chain on the gate. That itself is a little bit of a story. What's that all about? But shooting it straight on was kind of boring to me. So I brought in another object. There was a guy down the street had this bicycle. So I walked over to ask him if we could borrow it. Boom. So he said yes, stuck it in there, and it made the picture as far as I'm concerned. Okay. It's a thing called punctum. Have you ever heard of punctum?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Punctum is the object that's out of place. It's when you have something that's odd. Okay. It's like a beautiful waterfall and so on, and yet you have a monkey hanging on the side of the water for some reason. It's just something stupid. It's just something ridiculous or something out of place. Anytime they use it a lot in advertising, where you have all this common stuff, then all of a sudden you've got a rocket flying through the screen. That's the punctum thing. It's the difference. So it doesn't have to be that extreme. This one was shot through a window as well. That was kind of cool. You can see the reflection of trees up there. Anyway, let's go back to you. That's Dolly Museum. So now I've talked quite a bit. Now tell me more about what you're seeing and what you need to know beyond what I've given you.
From hearing you talk about your photos, I'm seeing that there's things that I want to change about how I'm shooting. Things I want to add, using more depth for sure is something that I'm going to do now, and thinking about the textures in it, and creating multiple textures possibly, or changing it up, because I think I shoot a certain thing and I'm comfortable there. And I think now what I want to do is do new things and take my photos and do new things with them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm giving you these ideas just to spark your interest, make you think a little bit more beyond where you are, which it sounds like you are. Awesome. Good. But you don't have to do what I've done. Okay. My thinking is just to kind of nudge you in another direction, and if you can use some of this specifically, wonderful. If nothing else, opens your mind a little bit to thinking a different way or adding more thought. That's awesome. Okay. Now, what are you wanting to do with this? Are you wanting to make a living at this, or you want to make it as something where you're just enjoying it for your lifetime, or what are your objectives? Or I hate the term goal because that's a pass-fail, but what are your objectives or goal, if you prefer?
right now, my objective is to build a portfolio and a collection for myself.
Cool.
I'm honestly very confused about what I want to do as a living.
Okay.
And have no idea. But for now, my goal with this is, to create something that I can enjoy and that I can share with others so that hopefully they might enjoy it and they might think about things in a different way.
Okay. Well, let me give you a couple of tips that'll follow right along with that. You remember that I mentioned the fact that I had a series of through the window shots. Well, I set up a whole series, well, not set up, but I've shot probably in one portfolio somewhere. I have it. I don't even have it posted, but in one portfolio, I think I've got probably 30 or 40 shots that are through the window type of thing. Okay, just people inside of windows, subjects inside of the windows, views of things, through inside the windows. It's a subject matter. A subject. Some people shoot motorcycles. Some people shoot cars. Some people like architectural. That's how I make most of my living, is shooting architectural photography. Okay. Then I do some fine art fairs, make a little bit of money at that. But architectural is what I'm doing. And then I shoot on the weekends. I'll also shoot some random running events like mini marathons. Doesn't pay much, but when you do multiples of them and you add it to everything else you have, then you're making pretty good money. Anyway, so pick subject matters that you like. This one right here. Okay. I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but I have multiple shots that are sort of in line with this. You have the Bedford stone that's built there, but you have the lights and the shadow highlighting and all that, creating, if you kind of blur your eye a little bit, and then you see all these light, it almost looks like there's like somebody on sort of going backward with their head here and arm and torso down here, kind of floating up. And they may be like a dog or something floating away from it, or clouds. I don't know. It has all these kind of crazy things going on. So I have multiple shots that are like this. So I created a subject and tried to shoot a lot within what that is. Most photographers create an identity. Most of the identity most people see me as is as a architectural photographer. Okay? So pick a subject. If it's, I don't know, whatever, anything that you like. Skateboarding, if skateboarding is a thing, do some cool abstract photography around skateboards and do a whole series of it. Do 10, 20, 50, 100 frames, 1,000 frames, whatever you want to do, until you feel like you're comfortable with it and you got what you want. Then maybe go on to another subject instead of doing like 50 different items. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That would be a big tip. And then you've got a portfolio that shows who you are, the type of subject matter that you shoot, and some variety within it. Okay. When somebody tries to hire me, they want to see what I've done, and if my pictures match up with what their expectations are. And if I've just got these artsy crafty things, and they're looking for something that's a little bit more advertising based, boom. I'm out.
Yeah.
But if I have something they can use, then I have the possibility of being in. One other thing on that, when you shoot a series and you just, want to try to do something that you might want to sell, like on iStock Photo or any of those type of things, you want to use your rule of thirds and create an L. Okay. Your rule of thirds being a point of interest here, point of interest here, point of interest here. Leave white space. You can flip that around. Point of interest, point of interest, point of interest. Leave white space. You can do it in a V. You can change it around. But the reason for that is if somebody wants to buy your image because they really like this texture, then if you have point of interest here, maybe a person's face, maybe something else here and something else here, and this is white space, this gives them room to put text. look at a newspaper, look at a magazine, and see how those are laid out. Okay, so create a portfolio that gives you an identity, or multiple identities, but each portfolio should give you an identity. Okay. And David, I wish you the best with all this. All I can tell you is keep shooting, keep enjoying it, and it'll take you where you want it to go if you just stay with it. Okay. You got a good eye, my friend. Stay with it.
Very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.